Hey, YouTube. Good morning. Happy Thursday. Listen, I just saw something interesting. Okay, I just saw this interview. It was published. It was called The Pascal Show. And it was published on May the 23rd, 2019, right? So, this is concerning Richard Pryor Jr. And it's very informative. So I thought it was interesting. So I'll make a couple of statements about this. Okay, so in this show, Richard Pryor Jr. was interviewing with this guy. I wasn't familiar with the Pascal show, but he scored to get a good interview like this. But Richard Pryor, first of all, he said he was gay and has been gay all his life. There was a marriage in there somewhere, produced a son, but he has always been known he was gay, right? So I think we need to stop calling Paul Mooney a child molester. It seems like, and I'm horrible at mathematics, but it seems to me that this guy was somewhere between 19 and 25 years old, right? So when they had an encounter, if they had sex with each other, Richard Pryor Jr. was a gay young person between 19 and 25 years old. Paul Mooney was a gay man between around 39 years old, right? Okay, so on the face of it, there's no real abuse there because this is a grown man with another grown man, and they're both gay. So it seems like the offense would be then just that you are my friend and you had sex with my son. Now, straight people see this stuff differently because for the guy who's the guy that told the story yesterday? I forgot. The guy who released the story a couple of days ago. He considers this to be some horrible thing worthy of murder. Now, since Richard Pryor, wait a minute. So there was sex between two consenting adults. They're both gay. They're working in each other's environment. They're in each other's environment, and they do something. It's not unusual. Listen, people. A lot of people are not aware of the gay life experience, and people they like to pretend that they understand things perfectly, and they don't, because 19-year-old guys, certainly 25-year-old guys, are very sexual people, and many of them will have sex with a 39-year-old man. It is not even unusual. When I spoke about this thing yesterday, I was saying that I know personally, through personal experience, that Paul Mooney used to cruise the boulevard. Well, cruising the boulevard means he was looking for guys out there who were selling their wares, generally speaking. I'm not saying that he had to pay all of them, but most of the guys that are out there 2 o'clock in the morning walking up and down the boulevard were available for a price. So those are not 40, 50-year-old men out there walking the stroll, believe me. They're all between 19 and 25. So it's not unusual that these guys got together. The violation was because it was Richard Pryor's son. Right? Now, I don't know that if I had a gay son who was with my gay best friend, I don't know that I would want to have that person murdered. So I'm thinking Richard Pryor, even the guy who dropped the story, and I'm sorry, I forget his name, dropped the story, said that he initially thought it was because Richard was high and he was just talking. And you know, Richard Pryor talked rough, talked hard. So I'm thinking just in his drug-induced stupor, he said he wants to hire somebody and pay somebody $1 million to kill Paul Mooney. Because there are pictures later on in their lives together, in their lives, where Paul Mooney is pushing Richard Pryor's wheelchair. So I don't think if he had that major blow up where he wanted to murder the dude, he'd be pushing his wheelchair years later. So I'm thinking the story is not as big as what it was initially made out to be. There was no molestation there. When Richard Pryor Jr. said that he had been molested before he was of age of legal consent, that didn't necessarily mean that it was Paul Mooney. I mean, Paul Mooney is only one person. It could have been numerous other people. So until Richard Pryor Jr. says that he had started this relationship with Paul Mooney years before, I mean, I guess it's possible that they had been carrying on together for years. when he was a minor, leading up until the time that he was of age. That's a possibility. But until he actually says that, I'm not willing to crucify Paul Mooney like he did some horrible thing. Right? I talked to a couple of my friends. I said, you guys, I asked them, two that I talk to regularly, were there ever any adults that you cruised when you were 19, 20 years? Well, of course, they had crushes all over the place. If they could have, they would have. I remember my own experience. I had sex with people older than me. I mean, when I'm in a relationship, the guy was 7, 8 years older than me. So it's not even an unusual story. So, and I can imagine under perfect conditions, Richard might even improve if they were getting together. But unfortunately, it was probably not a love affair. They didn't fall in love. There wasn't no Romeo and Juliet. They simply had sex. So I think we don't have enough of this story yet. But I don't know that because Paul Mooney apparently has canceled some event he has. Probably the people pulled his concert. I don't know if it should go that far because it's coming across, you know, how people always say, oh, you did something horrible. Oh, it was a molestation. There's no proof that it was a molestation at all. It sounds like two grown men having consensual sex. Father didn't approve. Father spouted off some words. Fell out with his friend. But I don't know that I believe that this was an actual plan for a hit. The way the writer just a couple of days ago described it is that the only reason the hit didn't take place was because Richard set himself on fire. So that incident happened and he was incapacitated to carry it off. But if he gave the order would still stand, right? So it wasn't an order. He was kicking it around with his bodyguard. I don't know that I would be, if I wanted to kill somebody, I'd be discussing that with some paid employee. I just don't see it. Particularly not if I'm paying $1 million. So hopefully one of these guys, Paul or Richard or both of them, will come out with what actually happened just to put this thing to rest. I don't see it as being horrible. I was impressed by the interview, and I'll share the link in my description. I think that's allowable. With Junior, he seems to be an articulate guy, good guy, intelligent. Apparently he has some connection to show business himself, but he is in the church. I guess he's studying to be pastor, and I love that. I absolutely love that. In fact, the book that I'm planning on writing now is going to be about angels. These are people in heaven coming down on the earth and discovering their purpose to help someone else just like themselves. So that's been percolating in my mind. I'm trying to get myself motivated to write a story just like that. So I think there's certainly a need for gay pastors, gay clergy. There's a need for that. We need to be preaching to ourselves and stop waiting for the rest of the world to come around to accepting, or knowing, or acknowledging us. So that was great. Be quiet, boy. Anyway, people, I'll be back in a minute to talk about Queen Sugar. Things were getting resolved. Okay, so as far as we know, Paul Molester ain't put his hand on no child. He was a full-grown gay man having relations with another full-grown gay man. The violation was his relationship with the father. Okay? All right, we'll get back to it.